who are the most irreplaceable Vols? And I'm going to give you guys 3 selections. It's also the ones I picked up are on the YouTube channel. So vote there on our poll, but irreplaceable Vols. So Caleb, who is just as good as they come as a host and as a producer of this program, said we kind of.
And in terms of looks.
Yeah, and in terms of looks, that's debatable on the YouTube channel. But Caleb said we kind of did this on Monday with Spencer, and no, I'm saying transfer portal run amok, like what Texas A&M might be going through soon, what Tennessee might went through with the transition from Jeremy Pruitt. So I ask you guys, and I'll start with you, John, who are the 3 players that Tennessee just could not lose? Not that they even have a chance of losing these guys. So don't get overly excited here. But I do want to hear your thoughts on the channel. We'll start with John. If you would like to put up a vote, here are the choices. Nico Iamaleava has right now 90% of the vote. Cooper Mays is not gotten a vote yet, as I just put that up. James Pierce Jr., I think probably the most talented player on Tennessee's team, has gotten a couple of votes. Any coach not named Heupel has not gotten a vote so far. I don't think there's a coach that Tennessee – I don't know that there are 2 coaches, John, that Tennessee would keep over a guy like, I don't know, Nico?
I didn't know we were including coaches in this, Dave. But
We're not. I just got sidetracked.
That's never happened before. Okay, I would go. First of all, any one of these guys could transfer. So don't say, oh, well, there's no way they would leave Tennessee. Yeah, there is a way. This is a business now. And if somebody gets offered enough money, he's gone probably. So we'll start with Nico. He's number 1. What would Tennessee do if he just said, I'm out of here, I'm replacing Bo Nix at Oregon? Watch that offense roll with me at QB.
Or if in reality, okay, let's say he's got a family issue and he wants to be closer to LA. I mean, those haven't cropped up in transfer portals as much. I think it's a bunch of BS to get money when they say that. But I mean, those sort of things could happen, and the transfer portal makes it easier. So in my top 3, Nico's definitely in it. Caleb, Nico's definitely in yours, right? I mean, that would be burning mattresses in the streets, Lane Kiffin style.
Yeah, it's mine, but I want to hear John's other 2 real quick before I get to
mine. Okay, we're going to get to those. And again, it's today's tough question brought to you by Andy Mason. Over 40 years of experience in his office. Best prices, best service when it comes to real estate in the Knoxville area. So we all agree that Nico's making our 3. Caleb's thinking so hard it's scaring me. He might break the YouTube. John, who's number 2?
I mean, Caleb's about to split an atom there. I'll go with Cooper Mays, number 2.
I would agree. Cooper Mays, John and I talked about it last night. Let me get your thoughts on the message board. Hit that like and subscribe button. Who are the guys simply Tennessee cannot lose? Smoky Mountain Red says, I'm nervous about Nico. He seems to be settled here, but can't help but think that easy. We're not trying to start anything. I think he's there. Now, we said Cooper was the player, Caleb, last year that Tennessee could least afford to lose. Things have changed, but not a lot. Would Cooper make your list of 3?
Yes, but for a different reason. Nico, I told you guys earlier in the season that I think Josh Heupel's whole future with Tennessee is staked on what Nico Iamaleava is able to do next year. I mean, I think he's that important. So he's number 1. Cooper is having him back at this point is huge, but it's somewhat of a luxury because I think most people, and I think Josh Heupel himself, had expected and prepared for Cooper to be gone. Now, that doesn't look like it's going to be the case now. But I think because of that, you would hope, at least by scouting in the portal or scouting on the recruiting trail, that they have somewhat prepared for the loss of Cooper.
Right. So you kind of hoped Ollie Lane, if something came up, would be fine. We know that now that he's not. So you would have a plan in place. Unlike last year, I thought the fall off to Ollie Lane was that significant. So Great point. So you would have him, though, as one of your three, right?
I'd have him as one of my three.
All right, here we go, John Adams. I think this is where we're going to start to differ with the transfer portal opening on December the 4th, kind of in make-believe land. What Vol could Tennessee simply not lose other than Nico and Cooper Mays, who we all agree with?
I would go with James Pierce, pass rushing ability. He's the most talented player on defense, and we could ill afford to lose him. He's a playmaker.
Okay. I think he's probably the most talented player. I haven't talked to any scouts recently, but before it was Brew McCoy had the greatest NFL upside. I wouldn't be surprised if I get a little feedback. James Pierce may be even better. Caleb, what about you? Who is your third player?
I'm going to actually disagree with John only because I agree he's probably the most talented, but I just think an edge rusher is so limited in how much you can rely on them. So I'm actually going to stick on the defensive side, but I'm going to go Omar Norman-Lott. And I know that's crazy, but Omar Norman-Lott came on really strong towards the end of the year. And I think a lot of why James Pierce and Tyler Baird were able to do what they did was because of the push Omar Norman-Lott was consistently getting in the middle. And so I'm going to go with Omar Norman-Lott.
Yeah, on Tennessee's Twitter feed during the Vanderbilt game, it seemed like they were running out of Omar Norman-Lott pictures, so they just started using a graphic that somebody had put together in like June. John, what do you think of Omar Norman-Lott?
I think he's been a good player, a good acquisition through the portal, but much rather have James Pierce. We saw last year with Harold Perkins at LSU what a pass rusher could do to an offense, and LSU tried to use him in a different way this year. It didn't work out as well. So no, I think also I just think it's not that easy to find these kind of playmakers on the outside, and in the SEC. That's so important in college football in general. But I would stick with Pierce, but I can see why, also a defensive tackle can have impact. You look at Georgia's defenses prior to this year when it had Jordan Davis, and then followed that up with Jalen Carter. The impact those guys, man, because those were guys that teams had to double team and account for on every play. So a defensive lineman can have an impact, but I don't see Norman-Lott in that category.
My argument against both of you would be that Tennessee's pretty deep and at the defensive front. Now I know Tyler Baird, may go. He has a year left of eligibility. Correct me if I'm wrong, Caleb, but he seems to give every indication that he's going to cruise on. Pierce has to stay or transfer to another school. I'm going to go one that may actually go that I think would be a bigger blow than either of the two guys you picked, and I think that's Brew McCoy. Admittedly, I'm going a bit off the hoof, and what I've seen out of Webb and Nimrod, I just love saying his name. But Webb and Nimrod, I don't see a number one receiver, guys. I saw a number one receiver with Cedric Tillman before he got hurt. I saw a number one receiver, guys that would scare other secondaries, and with Brew McCoy even at times last year, and that opened up things for the slot position. And of course, in last year it was Jalen Hyatt. This year it should have been Squirrel White. Oops, missed another slant. So John, I ask you, what do you think of my choice before I get to Caleb's thoughts on Brew McCoy? Now, he did go through senior day. I have been told that he has given every indication that he is coming back. But if somebody tells you you're a third-round pick, that's a little bit different. So, John, what do you think of my selection of Brew McCoy, who very well might go?
Well, he's a vital part of the offense. He does a lot of things. He's considered a good blocker. He's a team leader. And he's also great one-on-one, just beating a DB for the football. But he doesn't have game-breaking speed. I think Tennessee should be able to replace him in the portal. I mean, Tennessee needs to add a guy with speed. It needs to add a playmaker. I mean, that to me would be a high priority. You talk about how you want to disperse your NIL money. I would be looking for a playmaker at wide receiver. Tennessee's supposed to have a high-flying offense, and a big part of that is someone like Jalen Hyatt that it had in the past. So, yeah, I would certainly wouldn't want to lose Brew McCoy, but I would still take those other three players ahead of him.
John, I want to ask you who is knocking on your top three other than the guys that you mentioned. But first, let me start with you, Caleb. The three you went with Omar Norman-Lott. We all agreed on Nico and Cooper. Who was knocking on the door when you went to sleep last night? I gave you this topic. Who were you thinking? Maybe it's that guy. I mean, I know you love Wesley Walker a lot.
Yeah, Wesley Walker was actually knocking on the door.
Oh, he was? Okay. Sorry.
Yeah, no, he was. Largely because have we watched Andre Turrentine play, guys? I'm sorry. I'm so mean, but like Andre Turrentine has no business playing college football at this level. I mean, he's horrible.
And I will say this. Part of the reason I didn't pick a defensive back is I think Ricky Gibson and Jordan Matthews, surely to goodness, take another step from year one to year two, right? Surely.
That's fair, but they're cornerbacks. But that's a good point. I actually was thinking your side with Brew McCoy, but I got to be look, if Tennessee can't replace Brew McCoy, then we got real red flags on Josh Heupel's talent evaluation. He's got two receivers committed for 2024. One is a 5-star and Mike Matthews. That follows adding the transfer in Dante Thornton. What are the chances that Josh Heupel is going to miss twice on a guy that has all the tools to be a number one receiver? If he does, we got major red flags coming, guys, with Josh Heupel and talent evaluation. And so I'm just thinking Mike Matthews as a freshman can step in and replace him.
John, thoughts?
Yeah, when I thought about those three guys that I picked, there was nobody close to them. I mean, those names came up readily. There was no one I thought was, maybe him. Anybody that started in this secondary, they want to leave, fine. Tennessee needs to prove it can work this portal well. It needs to be able to get a higher caliber player than what it has in the secondary. Now, maybe the younger guys that were freshmen this year that didn't play, maybe they will fill those roles. But right now, I've been seeing the same guys in the secondary do the same thing for a long time. And the bigger picture, though, is the portal. Tennessee's had an impact through the portal, but it's not had the kind of impact it needs if it wants to make a 12-team playoff. It needs to do more in the portal.
Well, let me ask you guys this. As far as the secondary and the players we've seen, let's forget about scheme and all that sort of thing. And I know they played soft, didn't even zone blitz against Missouri. And listen, we could certainly have those discussions. Does Tennessee have the players right now? Are they anywhere close to having the players in the secondary? I'll begin with you. Remind you that portions of the program brought to you by our presenting sponsor, Banks & Jones, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney. Play to win, banksjones.com. While Banks & Jones, other lawyers say they'll go to trial. They won't. They'll settle. Play to win and settle for less. The other ones will, not at Banks & Jones. Banks & Jones are ready to go to trial for you. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Why settle? Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. Go to banksjones.com. Criminal defense, personal liability, as well as even medical malpractice. And two of the guys on the show know how difficult that can be in the state of Tennessee. T. Scott Jones, not afraid to fight for you. All right, so in this secondary, I mean, I know you said you were close to picking Walker. I'm to the point where I just think that the personnel in the secondary isn't very good. Now, Jordan Matthews and Ricky Gibson, we haven't seen enough, and they may change things. But that's the only reason I didn't go with the defensive back. Let me ask you this, Caleb. How many defensive backs that Tennessee has, either last year or this year, would see playing time and or start for Georgia?
Absolutely none. I'm not going by the Georgia standard. Yeah, none. None would make the third string on Georgia. And I mean,
then let's just roll John out there. You're wanting to save Wesley Walker.
Well, there's a difference between not being able to be on the third string on Georgia and not being transcendently bad. Okay, because look, I get what John is saying. I get what y'all saying. Nobody in the secondary is good. But guys, there are layers to this. There is not good, and then there's horrifically bad. Okay? So like I don't think William McKinley was I don't think William McKinley was that good of a president, but he wasn't James Buchanan, who was horrifically bad as a president.
So
Okay,
what you're
so,
saying
I mean,
is there's
layers to
Danny
this.
White. What you're saying is there's Danny White and Babe Laufenberg. Did you get that one, John?
I don't even
Yes,
know
I did. Babe Laufenberg, hadn't heard that name in a while. No,
He's their color guy. I hear him every Sunday.
Is he really? Oh,
He's actually pretty good.
Good for him. Better than as a quarterback, I presume. Yeah.
He was 2 of 15 for 96 yards in the playoff. Just saying that.
Well, he, sees the positive. He completed 2 passes. And I don't know how long those were. I think in terms of what the future is for Tennessee, the future for Tennessee, to me, needs to be making a 12-team playoff. And how are you going to do that? I'm not talking about 5 years from now. I'm talking about in the next 2 years. I think Tennessee needs to make the college football playoff. It's 12 teams. And so how are you going to do that? I don't know that you can that ability is on your roster in the secondary. It may be the younger guys, but the level of players you have, that has to change. It has to be upgraded. And within Tennessee's NIL money, to me, there's got to be a priority. You've got to have secondary guys, not just one. You got to have a big play wide receiver, and you have to have offensive linemen. If you can't get those, you're not making the playoff next year.
Maybe Dante Drops can play defensive back. Texas A&M has made a hire. Texas A&M has made a hire. What the age?
What the? What was he thinking? Release the hounds. The Dave Hooker Show.
Keep cool.
A presentation of offthehooksports.com.
That wasn't supposed to be that funny. That was just mean-spirited, and I feel bad about it, John.
It was. He's Randy Moss without hands.
Dante Drops. All right, but he came back, made a good catch, and even got hurt during it, so I'm giving him some credit.